We don't have relationships without wounds. We just don't. The key is, how do we repair? This is how secure relationships are built, moment by moment, repair by repair.
What you just said is key. The hallmark of secure attachment is not the absence of conflict. We don't avoid conflict, but an essential element that contributes to the track record of trust, emotional safety, and deep friendship is swift repair. Have you ever longed to be able to talk about values and morals or faith and spirituality without feeling judged? Hi, and welcome to our podcast, Mindful Moments, Insights to Empower the Soul. This podcast will empower you to embrace your true self. Hi, I'm Dr. Debi Gilmore.
And I'm Sharilyn.
This time of year, Sharilyn, I know a lot of people like to watch Christmas romance movies. I don't know how you feel about them, but we all have our favorites, the classics that we go back to, but I'm talking about rom-coms. And I have watched a lot of my friends, they say, oh, did you see this one movie or that one movie? It was so cute. Well, I decided to dive in and take in a couple. And this is what I noticed. There is a pattern where it goes like this. The couple meets unexpectedly, like really in some sort of accident. And then one or both are annoyed and definitely uninterested. They begin bumping into each other unexpectedly in various places. And then one falls madly in love. The other doesn't want anything to do with them, but then eventually they both get together. And then some unfortunate events cause a major blow up, right? And so then away they go separate. And then they begin to realize they can't live without the other. So then the movie ends with this glorious wedding and they live happily ever after, right? Yeah, that's how every one of them, I noticed, I'm like, I already know how this is going to end. In fact, I know how it's going to be in the middle of the movie. But, it doesn't seem like real life to me. And we know that. Do you see that?
As you were talking, I was seeing Sandra Bullock go through my mind with everything you were saying. But yeah, no, it doesn't seem like life to me at all, at least not any life I know. So yeah. So it's not real life, but we do want to talk about something that can happen in our world. And in a perfect world, how important healthy attachment is in adult relationships. Oh my goodness, if there's anything we're passionate about, it would be this, right? Debi, is a secure attachment. It's everything about what we do. And so some of the key words that identify a healthy attachment are secure, but flexible, and mutually nurturing. And so people with this kind of attachment, they're able to connect freely. There's no sense of being controlled. And so, of course, this is the ideal. And how can we achieve this bonding process? That's what it is. It's a bonding process where there's emotional responsiveness, trust, autonomy, and repair ability. Oh, I'm just getting so excited as we're talking about these words, because this is all about us, isn't it? What we do.
Yes, because we have a passion for the work that we do, because we know that it takes work for adults to bond in a healthy way. For many, it's not a natural process. So today we're focusing on healthy attachment in adult committed relationships. You may have had one college class where you talked about attachment of some kind or healthy relationships, but this really is a dilemma for many couples. So our agenda for today, let's just outline where we're going to go. There's 4 basic things that we're going to talk about. The principle of ARE. We love using acronyms because it helps us remember the principle. So we're going to talk about ARE, and then we're also going to talk about building trust and emotional safety. How do you do that? We're going to talk about one of my favorite relationship words, which is interdependence. What does that mean? And then we're going to talk about the importance and power of relationship repair. So bonding in adulthood is actually quite different than bonding during childhood or adolescence. Within seconds of birth, an infant naturally bonds with their caregiver. And in the ideal case, it would be the mother. And through adolescence, there are things that happen not necessarily reciprocally. It's from the mother to the child, the caregiver to the child, the father to the child, even older siblings to the child. There is a dependency, but it creates a bonding. It's important to form close, secure relationships with others in adulthood. So some people naturally trust, more easily commit. For example, once they feel a passion or affection for someone, they dive into a closer, more intimate relationship and they comfortably slip into making a long-term commitment.
Yeah, and we know that this, as we talk about adult bonding, that it can be incredibly complicated, especially, Debbie, for people that have had painful breakups or inconsistency in relationships, because that inconsistency, it'll start to block a person's ability to comfortably ease into vulnerability. These are such key components of a secure attachment, is the ability to be vulnerable, the ability to be close, and ultimately kind of make a commitment to one another. And so the process does require really intentional steps with both people working in tandem to formulate the type of bond that offers this consistent reassurance, trust, and emotional safety. So we want to talk about some of these specific ways to this important secure attachment. And you've already mentioned one of the most critical, this acronym of R, A-R-E. And it's one way that we love to kind of teach the process of healthy attachment. We use the acronym to help our clients remember more easily what it means, but it stands for these three really important words. A healthy attachment requires partners to be three things. They have to be accessible, they have to be responsive, and they have to be engaged.
So here's something to think about. It just occurred to me, we're not only talking to committed couples, we're talking to people who are trying to find their partner. And so in this world of online dating, there are things that we need to watch for. And so this also might be something that you watch for. So as we list these things that we're talking about adult bonding, use this as a guide for finding red flags versus yellow flags that maybe something needs to improve. The A stands for accessible. That means showing our partner that we are accessible, and it actually builds trust. And here's why. We're sending the message, I'm here for you, and you can reach me now because I'm putting everything I was doing aside to be present for you. In my graduate program, my doctoral program, I had to do some mini research and observation. And so I spent a couple of hours sitting in an airport terminal. It just so happened that I was going on a trip and we were delayed. So I was able to take copious notes. I observed people sitting in the terminal and noticed it was crowded, but no one was interacting person to person. They were all on devices. It was fascinating. And so that device focus does not send the message, I'm here for you. I'm talking about eye contact. And, this is an exercise I'm going to encourage our listeners to try. Just look at your sweetheart and grab their eyes and hold the gaze. It is a powerful moment. Notice how you feel. That's truly being present. So it means setting aside anything that could distract you, sending the signal, I'm there for you. And you're available not just physically, but you're there emotionally and conversationally.
I'm so glad you brought up how this feels, right? We're talking about acronyms and kind of intellectual stuff a little bit, but as you were talking, I'm like, just that feeling of somebody being so accessible to me. I mean, there's just nothing like it, is there? Like you said, they're looking at you, they're focused, they don't have distractions. It's such a gift to give people. And so as we build on this acronym of ARE, the first being accessibility, the second is to be responsive now. Being accessible is just kind of the first step of this, the setup. But we have to demonstrate that we're truly accessible by sending the signal that you're willing to listen and to kind of validate someone. Now that you're present in front of them, you need to be responsive. And that kind of response looks like, I'm interested in what you have to say. I want to hear you. I want to understand. And we do this in a lot of different ways, don't we? We send signals that say this with our eyes, the way we make eye contact, like you said. We do it with nods of our head. We do it with hand gestures. or just simple one-word responses like okay or or something that just lets that other person know, I am so focused on you. I am so responsive to you. I'm here for you. And it demonstrates such a desire for attunement. I love that word. We use that a lot in our work. To be attuned to each other is such a beautiful thing, not defensive, but attuned. Responsiveness doesn't mean that there's a reaction. It just means that we're sending the message that it's safe right now to have a conversation. I am responding in every way I can to what you want to tell me.
I've been using this with my little grandchildren, and
Mhm.
it's fascinating. I'm more focused because I understand these principles. We teach them so much. And so recently, I determined when my little grandchildren were visiting that I was going to get eye contact and I was going to truly look into their eyes and send them the message that I'm not only here, but I am present and listening to you, grandchild. Do you do that? I mean, think about it in friendships, in business, in committed relationships. This is all important. So we've done A and we've done the R, accessible, responsive. E stands for engaged. You show that you're willing to stay. See, once you're accessible and once you respond, you're not done yet. That means staying present in the moment, asking questions that show I really am interested. You matter. Repeating the very words that they have used really shows a powerful level of interest and understanding. Even if you disagree, you validate your partner's feelings or their opinion, and you're sending the message that your partner matters and that you care. This goes a long way. So let's summarize. ARE means accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement, which really is the backbone of a secure bond, quickly builds trust, self-worth, and confidence in the relationship. And something that we should suggest our listeners do, Sherilyn, is to assess, how am I doing? Not just how your partner's doing, but maybe do an exchange. How do you think we are doing in our ARE?
Gosh, even as you're talking about this, I'm thinking how easy it is to not do these things, life and distractions. I want to think about my own performance in these things. Am I accessible to my husband, responsive and engaged? And there's such simple little things, really. I love that, the simplicity of this, and yet it's so powerful. So some of the more foundational principles of a healthy bond or a secure attached relationship is the ability that we have to trust and to feel emotionally safe. And so some of the specific signs of the presence of trust would be, first of all, predictable behavior. You know what to expect from your partner when you reach. We talk about this important reach. Can I find you? Are you there for me? And will your behavior be predictable? And again, perfection in this process isn't expected. It's not even possible, but consistency is. We can be consistent in the predictability of our behavior for the most part in a way that allows us to trust someone. So your partner's words and actions need to match. When they say they'll do something or say they'll be somewhere, that needs to be followed through with that commitment so that the emergence of trust is a natural result. And also, conflict shouldn't threaten the relationship. There should never be any threats of abandonment, stonewalling, or punitive withdrawal. In fact, one of the most damaging patterns is the threat of divorce if your partner doesn't comply or give in. So those are important kind of safety nets to keep around your secure attachment and bond. Another builder of trust and emotional safety is when your partner does share a vulnerability to help protect them in that really vulnerable, raw place. They're risking to share that with you. And so don't judge or look down because of a vulnerable disclosure. We can do so much to protect and nurture that really tender place in our relationships.
All of these things that you've just listed that we've talked about so far, we're talking about a track record that we're building. We're building the track of consistency. That is what builds bonds. But if, for example, you mentioned using divorce as a threat, it's a weapon that actually breaks the bond. It causes insecurity. It causes this level of instability. It's like, can I count on you? Is that threat going to come up again? In my couples, I take that off the table. I say, I'm going to invite that word divorce to stand outside my office right now because obviously the two of you are just upset. Now, if divorce truly is on the table, we're going to use that, but not as a threat. Certainly not as an emotional threat or ultimatum. That's unhealthy. So now let's talk about my favorite word in a relationship, interdependence. Interdependence is a mix of dependence and independence. Different cultures in different countries across the world, some have more of an independent culture or a collective culture. Interdependence actually applies in any culture because it means both partners have a healthy balance of their own worlds and interests, along with things they share and love together. The richest moments in a couple relationship are when couples interact, intersect, and share mutual interests, but they also honor each other's hobbies. My husband loves fly fishing. I do not. In fact, it's my worst nightmare to think that I would sit or, walk along and cast a line all day long. But I honor his love of fly fishing. He has buddies that he goes with, and I have nothing against it. And he knows that I have my passions and interests too. And they're separate from our couple experiences, but we honor each other. Interdependence is not dependency and not disconnection. It means that you rely on each other and maintain your own individuality. You're able to soothe each other's distress. When the other isn't available, you can self regulate and you support each other's goals, each other's friendships, as long as they are not threatening the values of the relationship. So, how do you know when there's a healthy balance? If your partner's interests and passions compromise shared values, this is unhealthy and out of balance. For example, if the friendship threatens the marital relationship, that is not okay. So it means always honoring the core values that you share. Now, here's the question. Have you established what those are? We actually talk about that in one of our podcasts, but identifying what those values are and honoring those core values while enjoying your time away from each other. The things that you do outside of the interactions, do they still honor those core values?
I love these specific ways you're describing how this looks, Debbie. So good, so helpful. Yeah, so just building on what you've talked about, there's a secure communication pattern that emerges with a healthy attachment bond. And so that can be visible in the way partners talk with each other. We notice that they'll typically share from their perspective without being driven by assumptions. They'll often use I statements, not attacks, when they talk. And so secure attachment communication, it involves validation, even when they disagree with each other. It's beautiful to watch that, isn't it? They don't necessarily agree, but they can invalidate. I can see that you see this way. Statements like that, I statements, and honoring and validating even when they disagree.
And Sherilyn,
Yeah.
this requires a huge level of humility. It's just occurring to me that we have to really be humble in this healthy relationship and the building of bonds. We have to be willing, I guess flexible is the term, but humility is the big one.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we're self-evaluating, going, how humble am I?
Yeah, I say all the time that marriage and family is the perfect laboratory, isn't it, for self-development of all these things, patience, humility. So yes, such an important part of this to just be more humble. So when there's not a threat present, both people can be seen, they can be validated, and most of all, they can feel free to disagree without fear of being punished. It's back to that concept we talk about all the time, how much we all long to be seen. And that's one of the characteristics in the communication of people with that healthy bond we're talking about. It also includes the ability to ask clarifying questions. So, this shows interest and engagement. We've talked about the E in engagement. This is one way we can do that, is to ask clarifying questions, not questions that attack or feel, what's the word? judgmental. I don't know.
Well, I'll help you.
Thank
It's
you.
a question that's actually a statement.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, it's where you're asking a question to prove your point.
Oh, yeah.
So, and which is really intimidating and can sound even sarcastic. So we want to be careful. Is that a question or is that a statement?
Yes. So what we hope for are the kind of
Yeah.
questions that really are seeking understanding. Use a soft approach, such as, hey, can we talk about that? I'm not sure that I feel the same way. And being able to express our needs clearly and directly instead of using hints or jabs or shutdowns. It's such a much safer way emotionally to do this and prevents the feeling of someone being attacked or, disrespected.
As we hold our marriage workshops, it's interesting when we ask the couples to determine what's your base need? What is it that you need most in your relationship? Often we will hear them say respect. They
Mm.
want to feel respected by their partner. That's big to be able to ask myself, am I offering my partner the respect that they need? So, secure attachment actually includes moments of repair. Repair is essential. If you think about it, if you break a bone, you're going to go to the ER and get it repaired, hopefully. If you don't, it's going to be painful the rest of your life. Or if you get an infection and you don't take care of it, I had a friend who let a toothache go so long that she got endocarditis and severely compromised her health in her heart. So when we allow infections to fester, it can be life threatening. So relationship threatening. We like to use the formula conflict plus repair equals reconnection.
Mm.
So, the hallmark of secure attachment is not the absence of conflict. We don't avoid conflict, but an essential element that contributes to the track record of trust, emotional safety, and deep friendship between partners is swift repair. So, the first step, name the rupture or name the pain, say what was hurtful. If you hurt your partner, if I hurt my partner, it's important for me to be willing to take responsibility for the incident, even if I wasn't aware that I hurt them, to be able to hear, oh, that hurt you. But when couples reconnect through understanding and not blame, that is such a great repair. Blame actually compromises emotional safety. If we're pointing the finger, John Gottman demonstrated, I was in a live conference when he was there and he was teaching the difference between criticism and complaining. Criticism is pointing the finger and saying, you. That's blame. When we say, I'm hurt, we're pointing to our heart and we're saying, I'm aching inside, please help me. So we want to be able to commit to the repair quickly and avoid the ledger system. I call it the ledger system because if we're keeping track, life is not fair. Please don't do it. Quid pro quo relationships don't work. Don't weaponize past mistakes. If you have had a repair, you've got to be careful not to bring that piece up again because it's been healed.
Yeah, I love this talk about repair. We don't have relationships without wounds. We just don't. The key is how do we repair? In fact, Mike and I, one thing that we've done in the last few years that's been really wonderful is a 5-minute repair. Sometimes it doesn't take long to just do all the things that you talked about. It can be miserable when you drag it out for days or whatever, but to just quickly, swiftly repair in the ways that you have talked about is so important. So another important part of this is emotion co-regulation. One of our therapists in supervision said last week that that's one of the key goals she has with her couples is just good emotional self-regulation. It's so important to be able to co-regulate emotions with each other and to recognize the power of influence that you have on your partner. So it's helpful to understand that you may have the ability to help calm your partner's nervous system without losing your own. We can recognize each other's triggers and respond with gentleness. How beautiful is that? Instead of the trigger igniting a nuclear war on one side or the other, to so gently have the intuitive ability to see, wow, I know that's going to trigger you. How can I soften that for you without, impacting my own self? they don't participate or fuel in each other's stresses. Instead, they can see themselves as capable of offering compassion and the ability to influence their partner's view of the situation. But probably the most powerful tool couples can cultivate using is calling timeouts or pausing in the process to responsibly say, hey, can we pause for just a few minutes to gather our thoughts, to kind of calm down? Let's step away for a few minutes, and then can we come back together in 20 more minutes and be more regulated? We get out of that fight or flight that just hijacks, takes over our survival brain, and sends us to Tijuana in a ditch.
Yes, I love that you put it that way. This, what we call, it's a medical term, diffuse arousal, which causes us to lose 70% of our peripheral vision. We cannot hear. So it's going to be very unproductive for the next 15 or 20 minutes. That's how long it takes the body to actually come back to the norm levels of our vitals. So it's important to take that break, press pause, and then come back better prepared to process. So, securely attached couples are transparent and share the power. Now, we in our work have what we call a no secrets policy. Why? Because it's a burden to carry if you're keeping information from your partner. Now, I've had couples ask me, well, but my husband's in business. Should I then be aware of his business practices and his bank accounts for the business? And I say, marital assets shouldn't be mixed with business assets. So it's anything that has to do with the marriage and the relationship, the integrity of the relationship, that should be fair game. No secrets. Decisions are made together and involve brainstorming and equal sharing of ideas. And then power is never used to control, punish, or silence the other. That is so damaging. Both partners have confidence in their ability to influence the relationship.
I'm thinking about how much self-control this all takes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It takes so much self-control to be able to do all of these things. And I love that we can practice it, that it's not something maybe natural to some of us and that we can practice this. So another thing that we know about securely bonded couples is they frequently show appreciation and affection. And this involves even just small, consistent moments of warmth, physical and emotional, noticing the positives, praising each other, sharing gratitude for each other, remaining openly curious or sometimes even playful. We call them micro moments, right? They build on ongoing security and they solidify this foundation of trust and friendship and love that we've been talking about. There's just so many beautiful opportunities in a day to use these micro moments of a touch, a hug, looking into their eyes, thanking them, appreciating an awareness of the good they bring to us in our partnership. It's exciting to think about the power of just such simple things as this.
And if we do this ourselves, we become better humans.
Yeah.
And, we talked about humility. We talk about this needing to be patient with ourselves and with others. So let's do an attachment checklist, right? So we talked about the dating process. We talk about the reset in our marriage relationship or any important relationship, healthy versus unhealthy. Healthy attachment looks like this. I know I can reach my partner when needed, or I know that my partner will respond to me if I reach to them. I know that my partner will stay with me, to stay engaged with me emotionally. We repair quickly after a conflict and we support each other's individuality. We feel safe, we feel seen, we feel valued. And this last one, we feel claimed or chosen by our partner.
I love that. Even cherished, right? Even the word cherished by our partner. I love those words. So if we could be any more clear, we want to talk about what a healthy attachment is not. And it's not when you're walking on eggshells, that's not a healthy attachment. When you feel a chronic need to kind of distance yourself or shut down or withdraw emotionally, that's another sign that the attachment could be strengthened. Having to manage your partner's moods to stay safe or to avoid punishment, that's another thought to have as you're assessing kind of where things are at. Having to cope by withdrawing or using aggression or being overwhelmed with guilt or shame. there's an inability to be able to attune. There's that word I love so much, to attune to each other through open conversation and just an overall sense of feeling alone in the relationship. That's another indicator that the attachment could be strengthened. So every time you express vulnerability with your partner and each time you respond with care, you'll strengthen that critical attachment system that we all depend on and need so much. This is how secure relationships are built, moment by moment, repair by repair.
What you just said is key, and that's my therefore what. As we close this podcast, what's my therefore what? It's that this takes time. It's moment by moment, repair by repair, humble moments, frailties of humanness, admitting that we are human, that we've made a mistake. But bonding is a lifelong process. And ideally, it will grow closer and closer and deeper and deeper. And the repair, it might make you feel when you have an incident where, happens, that, when you feel disconnected, it's a quick feeling of, oh, we're back. We can do this. And so that's my therefore what. It takes time and practice.
I love that. And I think my therefore what is to be more intentional about these micro moments in my relationship with my own husband, in my family, with my children, and my friendships. All these places require some kind of attachment, right? Of course, there's some that are more intimate, more important, but just the power of those micro moments in what you just talked about, the building moment by moment that occurs in healthy bonding.
Thank you so much for listening today, and we hope you'll spread the word. We hope you'll send us topic ideas. Sharilyn, I want to just say that this has been so fulfilling for me, the reminder to do better.
Me too. This has been so much fun to sit with you and to learn from you, Debbie. You know so much about this topic. It's been a privilege for me to be here. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We appreciate it so much.